this. Look at this. All right. Are we rolling? All right. I guess we're officially starting this podcast. People at home are gonna.
Wow.
You're doing the McClish story here. So do you remember the McClishes from Urbandale, the father-son combo?
Privilege of coaching his son on the Urbandale team. Mike McClish was an assistant, and Todd was a player for
That
Urbandale.
white
Now here in
polo on
2001,
the
they're still
background.
I know. I know. We did not really care about. We were not looking for aesthetics back then.
No, that polo is very bright.
Does it seem like yesterday, or does it seem like years ago?
A bit of both. I mean, as soon as I saw the video of Schlicker, I'm like, oh yeah, Kyle Schlicker, in scales, but man, it's ages ago. We're old now.
You think?
Look how young we look then.
I love this one. So this is just some video I had from 2001. But yeah, so you're rocking the polos. We had the team polos. What I don't understand is Walters and I have like an upgraded one. It's like you've just got like the throwdown. Like I don't know what you're wearing here. So, and we're with Kevin Hall. Like he started on the ground floor of the Blitz. People don't know that he was a rock star for us. And this is like 25 years of the Blitz. That's why we're doing this.
Yep.
So maybe you do match Walters. But what are you wearing here? I mean, we talked about the white polo. You can't even see it. It's on fire.
Yeah. The iris is too hot, or it does not go real well with the green screen there.
Yeah, part of this I think is the dubbing of like me, getting the content just off because this is from a beta tape.
Okay.
And then I'm just like crunching it down. So this isn't straight from Dennis and Bosco's office. So, but this is the one I was making fun of you earlier, and we'll have to show the people at home. When you did the Schlicker story, you just decided, did you go to J.C. Penney's or where the hell did you go?
It was probably Kohl's. Or what? Yeah, I don't know. I dragged that one out of the closet. Maybe it was chilly that evening or something.
But maybe you were ahead of your time in that you were like, these polos aren't looking good on the green screen, so I'm gonna go casual. You're business casual on the Blitz.
Yeah. Probably should have gone with a button-down shirt there or something.
I know, but you're ahead of your time. I mean, how did we do that? Because Walters and I were like, gotta wear your polo, gotta be, gotta have the team look.
Fly the colors.
I think we finally got that figured out after a while. But let's go back. I mean, I'm gonna try to scratch your memory when we started thinking, because you just jumped in, and John and I aren't very demanding people. We were kind of fun, and we like to pick on people, but not hurt people's feelings. I hope we didn't bully you too much.
Well,
because you were up for it.
Yeah, I'm a ginger too, so I'm used to it. No, it was great. You guys were fantastic to work with. I've said this many times. I mean, your passion for high school athletics is unrivaled. I've never met anybody who loves high school sports as much as you do. And John Walters is, he's the best. So
we can't give him too much credit.
Well, yeah, he gets a lot of credit already, but
we wanted to be great at what we were doing, but at the same time, we weren't going to blow a gasket.
Yeah.
If it didn't go well.
Yeah. Well, I had come in, I had a little bit of experience already. I'd worked at a station in North Carolina and then a station in St. Joe, Missouri, and done high school football shows there. We had never done the half-hour thing that we did at Channel 5, so it was a little different. And, those nights, holy cow! I don't miss the TV business. I mean, it was fun, but the constant racing against the clock, it's some serious work, and you gotta go in, get some quick highlights, and get out, get to the next game, and hope it's not halftime already, and just hit the right spot. And
that's what I wanted to ask you about, because in the midst of all that stuff, with us just coming up with the concept, we have to kind of be safe too. And it got to a point where you would be like, okay, this is what I got. Walters would come in really late every time, and he'd throw some stuff down. He goes, I got a drummer here, 8:47, I got this. And he goes, I got a shot of the band, and then he'd leave. And I'd be like, all right, I'll edit it, But so sometimes you would just show up and be like, I got nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, you hope you get an interception, a touchdown, something big, but sometimes there's just not much to go with. And, here's a 5-yard rush, and here's an incomplete pass. And, sorry, we were there. We didn't get many highlights, but you're showing the viewer that you were there and you were doing your best, but you also had 2 other games to get to that night.
I know. And it was, I hated it when you had to do 3.
That was tough.
That was,
Yeah.
But I'd be like, oh, yeah, Kevin, if you go to Sheraton, North Mahaska, Sully, you can get those 3 easy. And you'd be sitting there going, what? And Walters would be like, are you sure? I go, we got Monday Night Football. It'll be okay. So I remember I shouldn't go off on tangents, but I remember we had like that playoffs would be on a Monday sometimes.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And we'd have that extra. And we only had like 2A playing. So I'm like, how can we go, to go get all these crazy things?
Well, the worst part is back then, we didn't have GPS. And sad to admit
I didn't need it, but
you didn't need it because you've traveled these back roads of Iowa your whole life. I'm directionally challenged, and it's dark. You're looking at the MapQuest directions, and the good thing about Iowa is you can get into the town, and if you can find the Come and Go or the Casey's, the school's usually right behind it. So that's helpful, but GPS would have been a little more helpful in those days.
I just knew that it would be great to talk to you about the behind-the-scenes things because I don't think people really knew some of that. And so Walters and I and you would get fired up about the littlest things, because there's nothing else to really, do in life. But I remember, and I don't remember James's last name. I'm terrible at names sometimes. But we had an SVHS camera because Walters was like, well, we only got this camera. And I'm like, well, we can take Don's camera and we can do this and we can go get those 4 games. And we had an intern he was a North High graduate, a Des Moines North graduate. His name was James. And I don't know if you remember this or not, but these were the kind of things I'm like, well, we got to get Big Game James to the North High games with that SVHS camera.
Yes.
And that's all he would do was North. I think North won all their games in one of the years. I don't remember it in 2000. But the little stuff was crazy.
It's an insane atmosphere, and you got highlights coming in from all over. You got people calling in scores, and somebody's got to record all those. And there's so much that goes into those shows.
Bree and Sharon are like dying trying to get all that information, and
yeah. And they did such a great job too with it on the production side, and Walters maintained his cool. John's passionate, so he'd get a little irritated sometimes, but you can never tell on the air. Once he goes on the air, he maintains his cool, and it all came off, and it worked out well in the end. But man, it was chaos. Putting those shows together is chaos.
It would have been fun to actually, because I don't remember it too, because I think we were enjoying it so much. But yeah, well, are we going to get that damn Newton score? Do we have it? Okay. Back on the Friday Night Blitz. Yeah, I mean, it was just different back then. But I think actually with the technology now, we got more scores and got the scores that we needed a lot, because we were directly trying to get the ones that we had. So we had connections, and I'd tell those ADs, you call it in. They'd be like, okay. Yeah. And so now it's like if you're waiting on some of these apps or whatever, you might not be able to get the score.
Yeah. Well, the personal connections were especially key back then, and you had to have them. You had to have somebody at the school you could rely on that will call in those scores. Because I work in other TV stations, sometimes I'm waiting on. I have all these highlights from the game, but I'm going on the air here, and we don't know the final score. I don't know. It was 70-69 when I left, and had to get back in time for the 10 o'clock news. But
you're waiting on an AD to report a score. Like that's back in the day, the old school ADs, that's what they did. And so it was different. So that transition, the cell phone started coming in. That was the cool thing is, like 8-10 years in, if they didn't have a score, I'd be like, just text the coach or whatever, and I could get it. Yeah. At least have it on the air, but how many we got incorrect and all that. When we look back on the footage, obviously it's compressed a little bit. I think our quality was better than what we're showing. Yeah. But can you explain to the people what we did? Because we had cameras with. And this isn't a very good example, but the tapes we would pull out of the machines, the beta tapes, and then you go back and can you explain to people that process? Like if you had somebody that wanted to see what you did back then?
So
we wouldn't believe it.
We had these big, heavy cameras that you check one out, you make sure you got a couple charged batteries.
And you got to have a tape.
And tape, and you go out there, you get a highlight, you bring your notepad with you, and you look at the time code on the camera. You're like, okay, touchdown, 7 minutes on the time code. It made the score this and this, and then you got to run ahead. You want to stay like 25 yards ahead of the play, so you're running up and down the sidelines during the game, and then you get a couple quick highlights. You go to the next town, you get all those highlights. You hustle back to the station, and you put the tape in the editor. Edit it over to the other tape, and John wants 30 seconds worth of highlights, generally speaking, and then you got to write it all out for John and make sure he has all the details of who did what, and it's clear. And the teamwork is the thing. We talk about teamwork in sports and how important that is. Putting together a half-hour high school football show every Friday night and getting stuff at the last minute requires a lot of teamwork. And with you and John leading the way, we had solid teamwork and we were able to pull it off.
Do you have any specific memories? It's kind of weird. Besides the great outfits that you wore during your stint, do you have any because you talked about Kyle Schlicker. That was a story you did. That's what the cool thing is. The relationships at the end of the day, right?
Yeah. And I'm still friends with Kyle Schlicker. We're Facebook friends. We'll comment on each other's posts every once in a while. I remember Kyle Orton was, I can't remember if that was his junior or senior year, but I came in August of 2000, and he was quarterbacking Southeast Polk, and I think he had already committed to Purdue at that point. And I showed up at halftime because I had another game to go to first, and he's throwing warm-up passes during halftime, and it's, the guy who's catching him from, he's 30 yards downfield, and just zipping them. I'm like, holy cow, I'd never seen an arm on a high school quarterback like that. And you could see the leadership skills that he had. He's on the sidelines pumping his team up. And I wound up doing a story on him for the next week's show. And you could just tell why he excelled, because he took everything so seriously and was a true team leader on and off the field. And, that's one that stuck out. Schlicker, the great Ankeny kickers, that story continued for several years. Yeah. And, it's just so much fun because the whole town rallies around the high school, and especially on Friday nights with the football, and just being out there, being in the atmosphere. It was so much fun.
I'm so glad that we did it. But at any time, I got to go back to Orton real quick after this, but at any time you're like, you guys are stupid and crazy. I'm not doing this crap. Were you ever because me and Walters, we didn't even think it would be hard, right?
Yeah,
you ever these guys? I don't even like these guys. Why did I start working here? Did you think that?
That was day one. No, I loved working with you guys. John was very easy to work with.
Yeah.
And good at giving direction. He's like, all right, go to the Drake relays and stay until this race, come back, and then go back to get more. And he knew his stuff inside and out, and which is why he was so good at his job, and obviously still is as the voice of the Cyclones. But
don't give him too much credit, but keep it.
You guys were great to work with because you really knew everything about the area and what teams we needed to follow, what players we needed to follow, who to contact. So it was real easy for me to slide in as the number 3 guy and just learn under you guys. You guys made it easy.
That's what's cool. It's the Orton situation is one of those examples. I'm like, hey, this guy's a stud, blah, blah, blah. And you've covered sports. You've been in that. And so when you get in those environments and you see somebody, you're like, okay, this is... You were even telling me no, he's really good.
Yes.
And so I remember those are cool experiences. It's great to see talent, and it's great to see people that are willing to put themselves in a position to not be evaluated. They don't care. Kyle didn't care what people were thinking. He just wanted to win.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was the gist of the story is just his passion for winning. You could tell this is a guy who did not like to lose. Ultra competitive. It's just his passion for winning and making everybody around him better, which is really, honestly, that's a lot what you and John did. You made me better, and that's what high school sports is all about, the team atmosphere.
Well, I appreciate that. I never even thought about getting that personal. You're going to make me cry now, Kevin. But was there another story, or were there other things that people? We had so much. You and I had so much interaction outside the Blitz, just on a daily basis, having fun. But what was weird is when you're in a department together, we don't get to work together as much as like you work with the guys from the other station more, because it'd be like you come in and then you'd be out with Roland or you'd be out with Bailey. And so those guys, the guys in the other stations end up being some of your best friends, and the guys at your station you're never ever quite working together with.
Yeah,
it's kind of weird.
If you're anchoring on Saturday, I'm there. I'm going to the Iowa State game, and then the Iowa Cubs game or whatever it might be. So I would see the guys from the other stations a lot. Roland and Bailey especially, because they had similar roles at 8 and 13, and the camaraderie between the stations, that was something that was interesting for me too, because a lot of markets, I didn't know how competitive it would be, and obviously there's competition, but I remember my first Iowa State football press conference, Andy Fales, who had come from Channel 5 and had my job before me and was then at 13, we didn't have a mic cord that was long enough. And immediately, Fail steps in. He helps connect us, gives us the mic cord to borrow, and that was always the case. A battery ran low. The other station would be there to help out, and I always appreciated that. I mean, obviously, Channel 5, we weren't going to win the ratings battle. We wanted to, and we tried our best, but we were always there to help the other guy out, and the same for them helping us out. So I thought that was cool.
That was cool. I think that we're still. That's a unique group of people. The TV thing, when you were growing up, let's kind of wrap it around. We'll come up with any other Blitz stuff that you want, but was Kevin Hall the young guy? Because obviously people that are listening to this are like, who is this guy? Why is his voice so awesome? When you were growing up, what was your goal? I mean, were you, because I realized right away after having a kid and stuff, Sports Center and all that, I think you could have ended up going there. We could have ended up, if you push hard enough and you know how to do, you can get to where you want to go, how far you would go talent-wise in those. Were you like, want to go ESPN? Were you happy with where you were? When you were growing up as a kid, was it play-by-play guy like Walters is doing now?
I didn't know what I wanted to. I mean, obviously, like most sports fans, I wanted to be, Larry Bird or something.
That's true. I thought I'd at least be, a Hawkeye basketball player or something.
I was not blessed with a lot of athletic skills, unfortunately. When I got into college, I started the college radio station. I was a huge sports fan and started being a sports radio, just doing sports reports, and then we had a sports talk show, and then I got into the play-by-play aspect. So really, that was my passion, was doing play-by-play on the radio. Eventually, that led to a TV internship at the ABC affiliate in New Bern, North Carolina, and it led me to St. Joe, and then eventually Des Moines. Lon Teagles was the news director who actually hired me in St. Joe for the station there, and then he became the news director of Channel 5 a few years later, and y'all needed a number 3 sports guy, and it just worked out. And that's the thing, too, is all through life, I've learned in every job I've ever had, connections matter, and you never know where the personal connection of somebody you met 10 years ago might know somebody who knows somebody, and it helps you get a foot in the door. So
I've been looking forward to wanting to talk to you. I think that this could go on and on and on. Is there any lasting memory that, I mean, I don't remember there ever being like a snowstorm, or, I mean, we survived, we even if we had a bad show, I don't think, I think one of the things that we would say is that best show ever, top 5 Blitz ever. I don't know.
Nothing sticks out in terms of really a show that I thought was off the charts. I thought everything we did was good.
Yeah.
Because there was a variety of the CIML, and then you had the small schools, and we had a nice feature segment. We'd bring a coach in for the interview. And I tell you, if you're a high school sports fan and you wanted the full package on a Friday night of what happened all over the viewing area in central Iowa, Channel 5 was the place. That Blitz show was awesome.
Yeah, I think it was unique in that there was just some relentlessness to it.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to go do it.
Yeah.
And our main man, Ken Winkler, just walked in, and I was like, why in the hell did, I had no problems going to State Center. I wanted to go all over the state. I would have went to Emmitsburg if they'd have let me. But those
State Center was one of the first stories I did.
You did?
Yeah, I did. I profiling them. I think it was a preseason thing.
Yeah. Yeah, because it would have been, and I did a story I'll have to show you here in the break. it's on their grocery store, their Jack and Jill grocery store. Like I went up there before a game and just like shot some stuff before you probably started. But yeah, because you would have probably did that story because they won the championship in '99.
Yes. Yeah. So went and did a preview and interviewed.
Well, we'll have
Winkler.
to dig that up and get that in the archive. But yeah, but my thing was, and this is what I'll ask Ken and some of the other coaches as they would come on. Why in the hell would you drive to the studio and be on the show? I had no idea. And Walter's like, Bingham, you got to get him. Binger, you got to get him to come. He goes, that's the great part. I'm like, it's kind of, I don't really like interviewing the coaches on, he's like, you got to do it. And I think that added credibility to it a little bit.
It did. And, the people in that community, they like seeing their hometown coach on TV. I mean, I remember growing up as a kid, we talked about this, when you were growing up, the ABC station in Raleigh, North Carolina, they were huge on high school football. And I lived in Fayetteville, which is about an hour south of Raleigh, and they had a helicopter. And if they brought the helicopter to your game, that was a big deal. My high school had a pretty good football team. We had a few guys that wound up in the NFL, and when they came to our game, we knew it was a big game. It was going to get coverage in Raleigh-Durham, which was a much bigger area than Fayetteville, and so high school football, I grew up watching it and watching the high school football shows. It was cool.
It seemed like when we were at Channel 5, everything was leveled out, too. You know how the ego would get in the way, like at TV stations? We didn't really have that. And I think that friendship and that connection is pretty real and pretty rare. Yeah. And like you were talking about, I think it's in our market, too, with our sports guys.
Oh, yeah.
It's just it's a wonderful place to be. But for a dollar a holler, I mean, we weren't making much money, so we had to get real life. So give people a quick update. So if they're like, oh, I saw Kevin, now I understand. So tell them where you're at right now, because you have a real job. And I mean, you and I are always day to day. I work here at Bang Bang, and I could be let go at any moment because I might be
fire yourself.
Yeah, because I might sit with Ken Winkler for 3 hours this afternoon and go back through all the coaches in the state of Iowa. But tell people about your plan and what you're up to these days.
It's been a weird career path, but about a year and a half ago, I became the communications director for the Iowa Pork Producers Association. Yeah. And before that, I was communications director for the Iowa Secretary of State for 8 years. Now, I wanted to be a sports radio play-by-play guy. This is not the career path I envisioned, but it just worked out, and it worked out for the best. It's the best job I've ever had, and we're still kind of involved in high school sports because we sponsor a lot, both on the boys and girls side, with the top producer for girls high school volleyball and basketball, and we do the Hog Award and the state football championships, give the linemen some love who don't get a lot of attention.
That's
so
cool.
It's fun. I'm still kind of involved in it, and promoting pork, which is essential to Iowa's economy, and it's a great gig.
I'm with it. I love it. You got a great organization there, and so hopefully we'll be partnering up on other things down the line. But any final words? I mean, anything you want to? Any other personalities on the show? Or
it's just the coaches were always great to be around. I mean, Gary Swenson was at Valley. He was there forever. We're talking 24 years ago when I first met him, and it's amazing to see how it's still growing and how many guys from Iowa have gone on to the NFL.
Isn't that cool?
I mean, per capita, we're one of the top states for producing NFL guys.
Yeah.
It's amazing because we're a relatively small state, and it's just seeing how the schools have grown over the years. I mean, there was only one Ankeny High School back then. There was only one Waukee, and Waukee wasn't very good at sports at the time. So it's been crazy, but it was a lot of fun.
Well, and I think that speaks a lot to all of our small town people, how much football meant to them. And now that they're coming into the cities, you could really see how it's elevated the CIML too. And I always talk about the CIML was good, but once we started doing the Blitz, I mean, they've won 20 of the 25 state championships since we started doing the Blitz.
That's amazing.
Eastern Iowa used to dominate Iowa City and West, and it's just like, nope, once we started doing the Blitz, but I think there was a little bit to that model of, hey, more coverage, more excitement, more passion. So I think they would have.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's it. You got nothing else?
I think I'm good.
All right. Kevin Hall, ladies and gentlemen, Friday Night Blitz. You were the OG. You were with me and Walters from the beginning. So we appreciate you.
Thanks, Dave.